Hello everyone and welcome to the Anime Daily, and thank you for joining me as we discuss chapters 198 to 221, covering the Name Hunt Station arc from the Tower of God webtoon series. Now, as a side note, I am giving Slayer Karaka his own video in where I give you my thoughts about him and his interactions with Yuri and Bam. That being said, what an extraordinary arc this arc was, as it was consistent of the themes based around slavery, guilt, while also ending with what could be described as a god tier ending to an arc. This arc left me with my jaw dropped to the ground, wanting to read more consistently. The stuff with Karaka, in my opinion, was a showstopper, and of course we're going to be talking about that in a separate video, but with this one we still got a lot of good things to talk about and discuss, so let's hop right in and start with the discussion, shall we? So let's start by talking about Kaiser, a character that was very interesting in showing us her pain and struggles in having so much weight / responsibility on her shoulders, where in reality she just wanted to feel needed by her family or by anyone in general. Being that she is from the Lei Po Ren family of the 18th branch known as Grey Wolf, a genius who was in line for princesshood, thanks to her amazing display of skills and potential. Unfortunately for her, her human emotions got the better of this young child as she fell in love with a boy that turned out to be her downfall. She wanted to live a normal life with love with this young person that she met at this test or exam, but unfortunately, as we all know, princesses are not allowed to fall in love. So this whole test ordeal where people from the Jihad family sent this child to test Kaiser to see if she would fall in love ultimately ended up getting the better of her. Personally speaking, I found myself mostly sympathising with this character towards the end after hearing her backstory, after having the expectations that she had placed upon her. At such a young age, she must have had it rough. Although she only realised the weight of those expectations once she grew older, and with no one really around to guide her in the right direction, this is the life that she chose. Her actions on the 39th floor are in no way justified, despite knowing this information. And yes, I understand her desires to want to be needed again and regain respect from her family. She tries to repent for her mistake in falling in love, giving her family members wealth after being burdened with this massive debt. Because of her actions, her family did receive a massive debt that was very difficult for them to pay off. So this scheme was devised where she would take names from people and sell them at auctions to gain money to pay off that debt. However, Kaiser's family were just taking advantage of the situation, not paying this debt off, causing the cycle of suffering and slavery on the 39th floor, thus gaining the reputation that the floor currently holds. Overall, she wasn't a terrible villain, as she showed some interesting skills in her battle against Bam that, made her fight with him more unique, as we haven't seen Bam fight against a Ayama yet, or someone who can control a beast of sorts. Not quite sure how you pronunciate that word, but yes. Her using the wolf was very fun, and it gave us some amazing artwork and some interesting turn of events and twists. The teleportation skill that she uses was very fitting for her character. She had tons of weapons in her inventory, and they were all high grade ones, making her a very strong opponent for our main protagonist in Bam to overcome. And honestly, from that aspect, I think she was great. But when comparing her to other villains, I just really didn't buy it too much, because I don't know, she just didn't have that sinister aura about her. I never really thought Bam was in too much danger in anything that he tried to do against her. But at the same time, I enjoyed her. She was great. Now, that's realistically my thoughts on the character, so I think I'm going to move on to the next section of this video. The whole system that was created on the 39th floor seemed to be very reminiscent of the current cycle and system within the tower, just on a very smaller scale, where you have Jihad as the king of said tower, to here you have Kaiser, the ruler of this floor/system that we currently read in this arc. The parallels of having all the 10 great families throughout the tower is similar to the 10 bosses that whoever wants to challenge Kaiser has to get the name of. The named could be a reflection of the rankers, and of course the no-names on this floor represent the weak and helpless people that are within the tower that the overall system creates due to the suffering of the rules put in place. This overarching theme of slavery in where you can take a person's name from them and then create servants from people that have no names, forcing them to do whatever you want them to do, I thought was great from a writing standpoint, as this does again tie into the system that the tower currently holds overall in general, but also it adds a lot more tension to the arc itself, making us wonder if our characters within the story and on Bam's team are going to fall prey to this. So having our main cast overcome this and seemingly end this flawed system helps display a small glimpse of hope that in the future the tower overall could change to a even greater system than the one we're currently having now. Our current system within the tower creates a lot of problems, a lot of pain and suffering and anguish. So hopefully, like we did with this floor, we can change that as we move up the tower. But overall, we'll just have to see how it plays out. But again, I like the fact that it just gives us that little glimpse, that little kind of walkway into what could possibly be to the ending of the series. Now then, the character, or should I say persona, that the no-names rally behind in this arc wasn't Bam, but in fact Viole. Thanks to this tells me that we are at least getting a hint into what real order and change throughout the tower could be needed in order to occur. As in attributes and elements from the Viole persona, like ruthlessness, like the connections with Thug, and the value that the name brings. Whether that's fear or hope is needed in order for us to get some more development within the tower. When Bam has to accept himself as owning the persona of Viole, as well as owning up to what he wants as well, the two have to kind of merge together in order to bring about change and to make an influence. Bam at the moment is trying to run away from his Viole persona and leave Thug behind forever. But I do believe that we'll see Bam take on the role of Viole again in the future, because that is an important part of him that he shouldn't be running away from, but instead he should be embracing and not really turning into Viole anymore, because I understand bad things and bad connections are connected with that name and with Thug, but at the same time it's a valuable and important part of Bam's character that he's going to need to accept in order to move on and to grow as a person. I thought adding the information about the 10 great houses working with this floor, sending regulars that they don't want to deal with or like, or just want to get rid of, was a great way to build upon the idea of the houses being corrupted and adding more layers to the darker side of the 10 great families the regulars look up to and even idolize. I thought that was really great because we know, like I said, on the one hand, people idolize these 10 great households, but people who are stuck on this this platform as such, this floor, know the real truth. I'm surprised we didn't get to see Eon's reaction to learning about this, as we see her time after time learning more and more about the darker side of the 10 great households, allowing her to understand and grow better as a person. She does briefly mention that although she's from the House of Eon, she's nothing special, and it only because she's involved with unusual men and a situation, that is why Eon is here. But I do have to say to that, come on Eon, don't put yourself down too much like that. You're great. Keep it up. Oh, and while we're on the subject of her character, we're not talking about the possibility of her being dead. I mean, she's alive. Come on. There's no way they killed her off in the ending of this arc. There's just no way, Jose. I'm not accepting that. I'm not accepting that. We're moving on. We get to see a decent amount of mental growth from Bam's character from this arc, as if we were to see Season 1 Bam be given the choice of saving Endorsi or standing against her and taking Kaiser's name, then Season 1 Bam would always choose to save Endorsi. But in this instance, he actually opts against that, and he sticks true to his goals and goes after Kaiser's name and says to Endorsi, I'm sorry, but we can't help you. Letting Wangnam and Team Sweet and Sour go off on their own is another example to me of Bam kind of seeing that he doesn't need to protect everybody, because he wants to protect everyone. He doesn't want anyone to die, but at the same time he perceives this to be the best situation by letting them go, because it means he doesn't have as many people to think about when he's doing this next goal. It's a very dangerous mission. So Team Sweet and Sour aren't realistically being a burden towards him. Plus, Bam does trust Team Sweet and Sour because he spent so much time with them and have seen how much they've grown. So they do kind of show that Bam believes they'll be safe without him, and I think that's great. Speaking of his inner self, this was a really trippy conversation, telling him that the justice that Bam has been searching for isn't within him. He is a devourer of souls. He consumes souls around him and simply stomps over those who he doesn't deem worthy or that he doesn't choose. And this is something that is very apparent throughout the series so far, because we've seen Bam save Hoquin's teammates, although enemies, because he chose to save them. His choice was because he wanted to not see anyone die in front of him. And yet, looking back at Refugio, he showed no hint of wanting to save him. Now, overall, this inner conversation was a little bit hard for me to kind of process and think of a reason or motive for the Blue Devil to kind of project this speech towards Bam's character. Because yes, I can see truth behind this in what is being said, because Bam has shown this time and time again that he only saves those he deems worthy. But at the same time, again, I just don't really know the reason as to why it was said. Maybe we're missing more context, or it could simply be the fact that the Blue Devil within Bam is trying to break him mentally with the words that are being spoken. And the words that are said are taking some form of effect, because we see Bam reflecting on these words and looking rather sad and rather down. So deep down, Bam understands what he has been told, and he knows that they are, on some former level, true. Oh well, at least Bam's skills aren't getting rusty. In fact, they are leveling up at a very fast and accelerated rate, I should say. Showing more of a strategic battle style, thinking more on his feet quickly, and catching the weapons mid-fight. This was a really cool counter, accompanied by some amazing artwork and great pace. Moving like his own body is reacting on his own, almost Ultra Instinct-like from, if you've seen Dragon Ball Z, you know what I mean by that. And we've seen this kind of slowly develop as we've been going from the train station arc. From when the train first went off and Bam went out of control, we've seen this slowly but surely develop and grow, and this is just another step in that growth for it. So yeah, Bam's getting a lot of battle experience, and it's finally paying off, and it looks amazing. The dynamic between Kun and Bam in this arc was really interesting to see unfold and unravel, as we had a certain conversation that really piqued my interest, in where after Bam took on the Viole persona, we had no names coming up to him asking him to grant their wishes and make their dreams come true. And Kun was just like, "You're human, Bam. So what's so wrong with you wanting to save someone you want to save? You may have to treat people equally if you become a god." And then Bam's response to this was, in his own mind, well, what about if I want to become a god? And this line pairs magnificently with what could be some really good development to Bam's character after the events of this arc. As I alluded to earlier on, it looks like Eon and Rak might be out of action for a while, because to the cast, they think they're dead due to what Karaka did to the platform. But at the same time, Bam doesn't actually know that they're still alive. But if he was a god, and if he had the power to make people submit to him and basically be afraid of him, like the Blue Devil offered him in a few previous arcs ago, maybe, just maybe, Bam could have prevented Rak and Eon from dying. Then that's the way I see it. So this could be a brilliant development process for Bam in thinking, well, I know Kun says I'm only human, but I want to be more than human. I want the power to become a god. And then obviously we see him try to search that and so forth and so forth. I think that'd be really interesting and a cool dynamic. I like the fact that Kun was always protecting Bam and always had Bam as his first priority. Even when talking to Shimizu, he was like, look, we do want to help you. We have our own goal and stuff. But at the same time, I don't like what you did with Bam. You know that Viole and Fog were very bad for Bam as an event. So why would you very, very disrespectfully ask him to do that again? I understand Endorsee's life on the line, but there's always another way. And he walks out, he refuses to help him because of that kind of stipulation and because of the task that Yuri set for them. So yeah, I really thought that was great, and it just grows the dynamic while also driving a little bit of a wedge between them with what could possibly happen in the future. Remind you, Kun has always been worried about Bam's intentional growth, and Bam is growing at a very fast pace, and Kun's wondering if he can keep up with him and what would happen if he falls too far behind. So this, again, could be a dynamic they unfold going forward, and I liked it when Bam was fighting Kaiser. Kun kept switching between Viole and Bam as a kind of, shouting out towards him and warning him. That was cool. Lastly, on Kun's character for now, I really liked the fact that he pulled that suit off magnificently. He looks absolutely brilliant. And I think he's one of the characters that have had the most disguises throughout each of our main casts so far. So, yeah, awesome. Back to the original video. Endorsee was fantastic in this arc. I really loved her personality. Her struggling through having other princesses target her was great too. And the threat of her princesshood being stripped away was a very exciting dynamic. We have the arc breaking up former teammates, pitting them together in the form of Shibisu's team versus Bam's team. And this, again, reinforces Endorsee's relationship with Anak, because we see that the real reason as to why she's being targeted is because she's still travelling up the tower with Anak, who has a target on her back already. The bond between these two characters are still strong, and every day Endorsee risks her livelihood just to protect Anak, which I thought was quite powerful and quite cool. Endorsee got a few different outfits in this arc, and all of them were fantastic, and showed off some different features, plus the fact that she's now joining our heroes as we head towards the floor of death. So this should offer up some brilliant Endorsee and Yuri interaction, because we know both of them like Bam, and both of them are princesses, so let's see how that goes. Obviously, if they start fighting, Yuri's just going to put Endorsee in her place. But I mean, I'm excited to see how they react with like Endorsi being, oh, me and Bam are dating, and Yuri's just like, what? You're not allowed to, you're a princess, and then getting all flustered and angry. That would be pretty fun. So let's see some of that in the next arc, please. Speaking of princesses, it was really nice seeing more of them in this arc and learning about their abilities and the clash that is brewing between these different sisters. Elia and Shelia Jihad were so enjoyable to read and a great addition to this arc, both giving threats to Endorsi in challenging her princesshood with the information that they know, and of course giving us that lovely drop of information and opening up different possibilities for many things to happen in the future. There is also a possibility of Kun meeting Maria again in the future. This excites me a lot because we finally have Maria's name resurfacing after such a long time since we last heard it. Learning that Mesheni Jihad is also gathering these two princesses in order to help her with something in the future, and now Mesheni Jihad is challenging Yuri Jihad with the Yellow May and the Green April on the line. But why is the Green April on the line and not the Black March? Now, a part of me thinks that Mesheni knows that the Black March wouldn't listen to her because the Black March seems only like men. But at the same time, is there a tie between the Anak that died and the offer of wanting the Green April? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. But who knows? I'm loving every second of this, and I can't wait to see what the payoff is when it comes to these princesses. Because I want to see them again. They all have great designs, and they all offer something amazing to the story that gets me excited every time they're on screen. Seeing Team Shibisu again was really cool, adding again that struggle for Kun and Bam in being that they want to go after Kaiser's name, but then that would also be putting their friend's life in danger. So from that aspect, I love the addition of the old team reappearing. Plus, it's not like having Team Shibisu around made the overall teams and the characters too overpowered. Yes, they are all powerful in their own right and all had amazing spotlights. But at the same time, they had their own thing to go on. They had their own story, and they didn't really interact with Bam too much once they kind of realised that Bam and Kun weren't going to help them out. We had some standout fights from Team Shibisu's team, like Hats versus Shelia Jihad, which, amazing new sword by the way, and pretty cool outfit, very traditional Japanese-like though, but still, very cool, enjoyed that. Endorsi being pinned down by Lilia Jihad, kind of expected a bit more from two princesses clashing, but oh well, I guess we're going to see that in a later chapter. But even Shibisu had his struggles against Kun in a battle of smarts, of strategy and planning. This, again, all added some very good elements, and I like the fact that they had a plan to lure Kaiser out from Shibisu. That was fantastic. A little bit kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Insensitive? Because, of course, the plan that Shibisu had laid out involved Bam becoming Violet yet again, not really considering Bam's actual feelings in not wanting to become Violet. But, nevertheless, a good plan. Just, you should think about your friends a little bit more, Shibisu. Just a tiny bit. I know, they're trying to save Endorsi, so you're kind of justifying it with that, but at the same time, you shouldn't make your friend revisit those dark times of his life that Bam had to go through as Violet. There is always another option, another route. But still, love the implication and the input of Team Shibisu. Having Eri Inata involved gave us not only one of my favourite characters from this arc in general, but a brilliant new design, a great mini rivalry between Ran, allowing us to see him use a double lightning pill in one fight. But also, I love the most about this character is the fact that he was added into the plot that served a purpose of also hyping Hulkwyn up even more, despite not actually seeing Hulkwyn throughout the entire arc, as it displays the threat of the Aerie family. We already know that the Aerie family are insanely strong, but this character that we see in this arc wasn't even from the direct line, and yet managed to beat Rak and draw with Ran, who was being hyped up throughout the entire arc himself. So from this, I absolutely enjoyed 100%. The backstory we get for this character I thought was rather wholesome, if I'm honest with you. This character thought of himself as being worthless and didn't actually have any respect or any desire to be wanted from his current family. So he set off and got to this floor, met Kaiser, who actually saw value inside of him, giving us a bit more of a motive as to why this character is fighting and being crazy strong and putting up so much of an effort. Because he knows that if someone like Ran comes into contact with Kaiser, they're not going to win, but they're going to put up a good struggle. So not only is he fighting for his own sense of pride, but he's also fighting for the only person that showed value in him and showed him some form of respect and wanted him around. This was great, especially when it came just before they essentially killed off this character. I thought it added to him nicely. It gave him a bit more of a persona than some of the other secondary villains that we've had from different arcs. So, all good. Overall, I absolutely loved this arc from start to finish. And I thought the arc itself, from the point up to where Thug bought Kaiser, was absolutely incredible. But then, at the same time, I carried on reading to see the interactions between Yuri and Karaka, and that elevated this arc to a phenomenal level, giving us a tremendous, exciting, exhilarating ending to an arc that was already otherwise pretty decent, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Like I said, in my next video, I'll be going over the stuff with Karaka, Yuri, Bam, and a few other things. So chapters 222 to 225. So be sure to look out for that one, because that Slayer, he deserves it, honestly. The art style was fantastic, yet again, throughout this entire arc, and every fight was super fun to actually read. The plot itself looks to be going really strong and interesting, and I can't wait to see more. So, honestly, I just want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below on some of the things that I've said and some of the things that I've gone over. I may have missed a couple of things, I do apologise if I have. Again, let me know, and I can always add it on to a next video. But apart from that, I hope you have an amazing day. Alligator, matane. Goodbye.